In the gaming world, the graphics card is an essential component of every PC. It is often one of the hardest decisions to make due to the vast amount of models that are out in the market. If you are building a gaming PC or are thinking about it, you will come across this path. The two most commonly known brands in the competitive industry are AMD Radeon and Nvidia GeForce. But even in only these two brands, there is a huge amount of graphics card models that vary within price range just as performance. First, let's talk about the main differences between Nvidia and AMD. If we want to talk about performance, then we gotta consider ray tracing and DLSS. If we compare two graphic cards with their default settings, AMD has a slight advantage. But as soon as we turn on the ray tracing and DLSS option on the Nvidia cards, they create a huge gap between them and the other one. In the budget sector, normally AMD maintains the lead. They actually have the most equally distributed quality price. Also, power consumption is something we really want to consider when buying these kind of things. But for the consumers, good luck, this isn't something they have to worry too much about with the current graphic cards generation of both of these companies. Thanks to their Ampere and Big Navi architectures, they provided an efficient usage of power, leaving between them only a small amount of watts as a difference. Now let's talk about the drivers in software category. We have that quite a few people encounter black screen problems with AMD, but it was fixed on their newest releases, although some user complaints continue. A very important aspect is money. We all care about it, but at the moment getting your hands on a graphics card with its launching value is incredibly difficult. You have to be really patient as well as always checking for the restock. Because if you are desperate and buy it in eBay, you're going to pay at least twice the price. In the end, it really depends on the preference, but if we take into consideration the overall analysis, Nvidia takes the dub. We will showcase some characteristics of two low-spec graphic cards, the AMD RX 590, which is the best in this range of models, and the 1050 Ti, which in terms of performance is worse than the RX 590. The RX 590 presents Tier 6 computing unit stocks frequency of 1469 MHz and an overclock frequency of 1545 MHz. It has 8 GB of GDDR5 memory and a 256-bit memory interface. It has compatibility with HDMI 4K. In comparison, the NVIDIA 1050 Ti presents Pascal video architecture, 768 cores, 4 GB of GDDR5 memory, and up to 7 GB per second and up to 1392 MHz of boost clock. Other low-spec graphic card is the AMD RX 5500 XT, which presents 22 computing units, 1845 MHz of boost clock, 1408 transmission processors, and it requires 130 watts. It presents 8 GB of GDDR6 memory. It has compatibility with 4K decodification. It has connectivity with 1.4 DSC DisplayPort and 4K HDMI 60Hz support. And it needs an 8-pin electrical connector.
Next, we will proceed to compare the characteristics of two medium-spec graphic cards, the RX 5600 from AMD and the GTX 1660 Super from Nvidia. To start off, we gotta say that they both have 6 GB of VRAM. However, their VRAM watch marks the difference, making the GTX 1660 Super the best with 1785 MHz and the RX 5600 the worst with 1500 MHz. Now, talking about the prices, the GTX starts off at $229, while the RX instead costs $279. If we were to talk about the ratio performance price, AMD smokes NVIDIA, which tells us that for gaming at least, the RX 5600 is the most adequate option. But if you are short in your budget, you should not be afraid of considering the GTX 1660 Super. Lastly, for our last comparison, we will be using some of the top tier models from both NVIDIA and AMD. With this, we mean the AMD Radeon 6800 XT and the 3080 RTX, which are high quality products that constantly get compared and can make your decision making whilst searching for PC components quite troublesome. As the most general yet significant difference they have stands their architecture. The 6800 XT has an RDNA 2 architecture. Alternatively, the 3080 RTX has an Ampere architecture. In most professional reviews, the reports tend to show that AMD focuses more on memory capacity. On the other hand, NVIDIA focuses on its memory performance. The RTX 3080 has innovated in too many ways, and it was unlikely that NVIDIA could, but they seem to have achieved it. The AMD Radeon has seemed to deliver a huge generational jump in performance, while its competitor NVIDIA RTX 3080 offered a once-in-a-decade relation between quality and performance improvements. Apart from all the previous characteristics and one of the most concerning ones, when you're about to buy it, we have the price. For starters, both the 3080 and the 16800 are within the same price range. They are only a few dollars apart. The 3080 stands at $699, while the 6800 at $649, with a difference of $50. But prices may vary depending on the store. Building a PC can sound as a very difficult task, but it's really easy if you have the right organization. A very important part of building a computer is the graphic card. It seems like it makes just simple processes, but graphics cards convert numbers into images. The reason that is specifically important is the fact that a PC needs a dedicated graphics card because, as its name suggests, it's dedicated to process enough data to show pixels and colors that form an image that we can see through a monitor. Additionally, as we could see before, there are a lot of variants to each brand of graphics cards, and it is important to make the correct choice. It wouldn't make sense to spend too much money on a graphic card to a cheap computer with a low price processor, for example. To finish this essay, it is important to say that everything at the end relies on your criteria because a low spec PC can perform the basic programs as a high spec PC could. Every decision made must also be thought about the needs that the PC will satisfy for the user. And that's all. Thanks for listening.